Okay, go. Joe, okay. We will now interrupt this Garrett throwing paper airplanes at Joe Lewis for this quarterfinal feature match. We have the aforementioned Joe Lewis on the left. He's playing junk mid-range. We've seen him play about 1,000 rounds tonight, so you should be more than familiar with his deck. It is full of a lot of good stuff. A lot of removal. Of course, a lot of that removal is going to be dead against Jonathan Wright, who also has a fair amount of removal, but Joe has creatures, so...
Jonathan Wright started with Godless Shrine, which is literally the worst land to start with, so his hand must be land light.
Good point. Point Garrett.
Yeah, double Godless Shrine. So Jonathan needing a second blue source so he can cast his Dissolves and his Jaces.
Could you give Jacob his Heliod back?
Oh, is he still here?
I don't know if he's still here or not.
I'm going to go and check real quick then.
Okay. If not, we can give it to Evan.
Okay.
Alright, so Syncopate takes out a Desecration Demon. I mean, I would have to think that Jonathan's a pretty big favorite in this matchup. Here's a Read the Bones from Joe, which I don't think we've seen at all tonight, which is pretty remarkable considering how many times we've seen Joe untap with 3 mana over the course of the evening. So he drops down to 18, filters his draw a little bit, loads up a Mutavault, and swings in with said Mutavault to tie the match up at 18 each. Was he still here?
Yes.
Okay.
I walked away trying to explain to everybody that Heliod is the worst god. And they all wanted to argue with me. So what happened? We syncopated the Desecration Demon.
And nothing else. Joe resolved a Read the Bones and is serving in with Mutavaults here. There's a Packer. Why did they still play Packer at?
I don't know. It really messed him over in one of our games. Because he...
None of the cards in your deck are good to pitch to Packer at.
Exactly. And you have so many temples. We had this discussion last time I saw him on camera.
But I hadn't seen one all... I don't think I'd seen one all night. I hadn't seen Read the Bones either. But, you remember a few weeks ago, Joe, when he played this for the first time, he was just kind of getting a feel for this, because I'm pretty sure this is his own deck, but, like, Packrat's just so awkward in this deck. It's super awkward against the Esper deck.
Jonathan actually drawing a lot of blue lands, which is exactly what he needed.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 ball, corner pocket.
Probably going to ref for 3 here and untap a Verdict. Maybe even a 10. Look, here's the part of the game, though, where Packrat is actually very, very scary. Because Jonathan needs exactly Supreme Verdict here. Because if he has the Tension Sphere, Joe could easily just have a removal spell that's otherwise dead.
Well, Joe's also main deck Abrupt Decay, which makes these...
Joe just teasing us.
Yeah, so I see in Elspeth... Although, to be fair, tonight, when I set up, I didn't corner the glare like I normally do. Elspeth, Course of Crufix, and then 2 cards I can't see, Abrupt Decay, and...
So yeah, he does have an Abrupt Decay for Packrat.
I cannot tell what that card on top is.
Jonathan decides to go for Detention Sphere. Probably just taking the Elspeth.
Yep. Land for turn, get you some of Verdict.
Yeah.
And so now Jonathan is well in position here to win this game.
Well, he's ahead. He needs something.
He's going to have to answer this.
Forward, something like another Spectral Revelation or an Elspeth.
If he has an Elspeth, though, the path is clear, as Joe's already. It just not reveal a Here's Downfall in hand. Well, it's an Advent of the Worm. I do like Advent in Joe's deck a lot. Yes. Again, it looks like he may have cut Obsidats.
He has Obsidats. He played him against me.
Gosh, he has Obsidats and
Coursers.
I said earlier when I forget who was in here, but that Mana Confluence is the most important card in Joe's deck.
Yes, that and Sylvan Carry too.
But like, I mean, Joe's gonna be hard pressed to fight back from this specific board position, right? Oh, the trampling worm token helps. which is
Jonathan Wright did not play land though, so the rest of his hand's action. Of course, it could be a couple counter spells, which aren't too good whenever you're tapped out. You can see play for 0 right now. See if Joe plays around it.
You just jump with 1 to keep Elspeth around, right?
Yep.
I keep forgetting the worm tramples.
At worst, you can.
Also, the MVA's the worm, Dennis Rodman, also tramples.
Yes. It's usually because he's getting a rebound or throwing some bows.
He's the original bad boy.
Feeling a little bit frisky. Of course, now that Jonathan has all his mana untapped, the world is his oyster. Anything as simple as an Azorius Charm will kill this.
Do these decks still play Azorius Charm?
Yes. The things that I'm relaying to you are from harsh experience tonight.
Oh, you played him tonight. I'm sorry.
Where my Boris Reckoner, which
I think it's gonna.
to get
I think it's gonna eat a D-Sphere actually. And D-Sphere says I could give 2 butts about your abrupt decay.
He might Devour Flesh himself here. Yep. Game 5. Since this card is literally dead now, Jonathan has
what's interesting about D-Sphere is if it was an actual O-ring effect, if Joe had done that in response to the O-ring, it would have been the greatest thing ever. Because then he would either wiped out the soldiers or eaten the Elspeth. But it is a May actually.
Yes.
The D-Sphere trigger is a May.
They figured out that Detention Sphere is more able to make loops than Oblivion Ring was, so they made it a May.
Yeah, and they also made it you can't loop itself. You can hit everything you want except other Detention Sphere.
Doomblade. Go to 5, yeah.
Then they printed Banishing Light. Then they printed Council's Judgment. 1,000 different versions of the same deck.
There's Nathan.
Joe has seen enough. Joe with the courtesy scoop. Hey, Pat Cox's Travel Zoo deck.
Yeah.
Because I love Mutagenic Growth. That card's so good.
You just want, like, here's what I want to do in Legacy. Cast Young Pyromancer, cast Cabal Therapy.
That's all you want to do. Hashtag value. Alright, so Joe and Jonathan played the game quicker than they sideboarded. They moved to game number 2. Jonathan getting the better of Joe with an Elspeth and some removal in game 1.
I don't think that this is a good matchup for Joe.
No, it's a horrible matchup for him.
I think that the strengths of the mono black deck and the strengths of the green white deck
Connections, downfall, 2 lands.
are the polar opposites of what Joe has in his deck. Like, it's not as fast and disruptive as the mono black deck, and it's not as high impact as the green white deck. It's just right in the middle of both. And he has very good cards like Underworld Connections, like Obsidet, but Jonathan has the entire year set up and be able to play against him.
So Jonathan nabs an Underworld Connections with Thoughtseize, but Joe does have a redundant copy, so he can land that here if he wants to, and he's even got the Caryatid to be able to draw off of it. So we'll see if Jonathan has sideboarded in Deicide or has an access to a Detention Sphere, because that Connections is one of the most important cards in this matchup for Joe, as it gives him a fighting chance to fight the resource denial of the control deck.
Joe not wanting to do it on his main face plan around a discard effect. Jonathan playing 2 blue-black lands first, and you saw him scribe very quickly off the second one, so probably trying to find some white sources.
Yep, he is 1 white source away from Verdict as it is. Of course, that Mutavault is unaffected by Supreme Verdict. Joe with an active Connections, so trying to pull ahead here. I should build a Grixis Pyromancer deck. That'll be my next thing, is to build. Didn't Eric Rule do that once? He won an open.
She was very fun.
He played a bonfire in that sideboard.
You get to play Young Pyromancer and Days of Force of Will.
Yep. I like all of those things.
Yeah, so Jonathan definitely looking for some white. Here, of course, he can play everything in this deck except for verdict.
There's a question in the chat. Does Jonathan play a Quicken? No.
No.
The Wright brothers do not play the Quicken.
They used to.
They have learned not to play the Quicken.
Yeah. Once this deck got off its duels and you didn't have to play bad cards
The velocity is there.
2 or 3 Last Breaths and Quicken and Fated Retribution, like, you can just streamline the deck like it is right now.
So Joe finds a Courser, loads up his Mutavault and starts in again. So Jonathan down to 14 here, still with nothing on board. He does have 4 mana, but no second white source.
And this is working out pretty well for Joe. This is what he wants. He wants.
Looks like
he's
there's a
missing
Hallowed Fountain there.
He's missing a piece of disruption, like a Thoughtseize, or a Sim Collector. But he has the velocity. He has the Courser Underworld Connections, which is a great combo of sorts. Jonathan finds a Plains, casts Verdict, which is basically a 1-for-1, but also Stone Range Joe. Still, I think it's a fine exchange here.
You gotta do something. Also, and going back to the Quicken discussion, like, if you're going to play Quicken, wouldn't you just play Fated Retribution?
You just play neither.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in that choice.
Blade.
Yeah. But I mean, given that choice of.
Yeah, like if you're playing blue-white, you play Quicken. If you want to look at a deck that is playing Quicken still, look up Andrew Cuneo on Twitch, which is Acuneo, or Andrew Cuneo. And his blue-white deck still has Quicken in it. And his blue-white deck is very, very good.
So Jace AOT hits the board. Split is Dissolve, Mutavault, and Godless Shrine. Mutavault goes by itself. Interesting.
What's the other card with Godless Shrine?
That's Dissolve.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yes, I don't. That's why interesting is a polite way of saying I would have done it differently. I mean, it's not like a huge, it's not like a glaring error, and I'm not even saying it's an error, but it's.
Jonathan chooses not to play the Godless Shrine, gives instead the Scry, keeps on top. Jace gonna bite the dust. Favorable exchange for the Esper control deck, as he does get to Fog Joe for a turn, and King out 2 cards ahead. There's another Courser. So the engine's back online.
Jerry posted Nivik Cyclops deck today. I would play that at FNM if I was playing FNM. That's my kind of deck.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, but
it's just like a very streamlined, exactly what you think. Cyclops, Young Pyromancer, Gutter Snipe, and then just the right number of lands and the best spells.
Yeah.
God, that's my kind of deck. That's all I ever want to do is just combo.
I have no big events that I'm coming to in the next 6 months, so that's all I'm going to be doing.
Playing goodies.
Playing fun decks.
Pyromancer hasn't seen enough play. Alright, so Jonathan untaps. He's got 6 mana on board. We know he has a plethora of lands in hand, one of which is the Temple of Enlightenment, which he's playing here. He's got a choice, it looks like.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous spot for Jonathan because the connections have been active for so long. You know Joe has a Hero's Downfall in his hand. Like, you know that whatever you play is going to get answered. So you want to make an impactful play this turn, but also
back it up.
Have a good chance at a follow-up play and stabilizing next turn. So this turn's probably just going to be a Sphinx Revelation, or maybe just holding up a counter spell. Probably taking 4 from Joe's board right now.
So continuing to get value off of that Courser.
Found one.
There's a Duress. Jonathan's going to dissolve that. Protecting what he's got in his hand. Still debating that Scry.
We thought about that same card already.
Now things have changed slightly.
Well, he's not going to get to rev this turn.
Mm-hmm.
So if his turn was supposed to be Revan to Elspeth or Revan to Aetherling, then that might change.
Things have changed, yeah. There's definitely new information to consider. It's not like it's Typical Wright brothers slow roll. Serving for 4 here. So Jonathan on a 2-turn clock. Um, if he doesn't change the board state as it stands right now.
While we're not watching the game, I will tell you, Aaron Carpenter says hey from the Invitational.
Oh yeah, how'd he do?
Not good.
I talked to him at length prior to it, but then as it got closer, I didn't talk to him at all. Because I'd offered to, if he needed cards, to let me know, but he never got in touch with me, so I figured he was good to go. Or actually, I was afraid he was just not going to be able to make it. But then when I decided not to go, which in a way turned out to be like the best thing ever, because it was just nice to be at home for a weekend. But yeah, there was a lot of people there I would have liked to hang out with. There's an Aether Lane.
Jonathan at 6, so this might be an in-step. Make your Aetherling blink out and then attack you for 4. And if Joe has an answer that here, so we can go over.
When does it come back?
At the beginning of your in-step, or the beginning of the next in-step.
Okay.
So if you do it
during the in-step,
it doesn't come back to the next turn.
Gotcha. Seems good. Seems like Joe knows what he's doing. So Jonathan's life total effectively 2 here, as he has the ability to serve in with Mutavault and Courser as he does, knocking him down to 2.
What's the odds of that? This is the pass of the turn, but you gotta know that Joe has another removal spell.
Yeah, but if Jonathan has Rev, Rev's pretty good.
6, 5.
So Jonathan got some choices here. The only card in his hand I can make out is a Godless Shrine, which in no way solves this problem.
Yeah, and Joe knows about that card too. Off the juice.
Jonathan does have him on a 2-turn clock, though. But you also have to play the cat and mouse game of, alright, I pumped to 8, alright, kill it. Alright, time walk.
Yeah, I think, not knowing what's in Jonathan's hand, I think you just bash for 4.
Jeez. Alright, Jonathan is done, so we move it to a decider.
So basically just trimming the list, maybe cutting his Azorius Charms. For more efficient cards, something like Negate, something like Deicide, and hoping to get to play some Magic against these, sometimes up to 8 single target discard spells. Sometimes you don't get to play Magic and they just strip your hand. So here we are in game 3. Joe gonna start off on a Temple of Plenty, and then pass the turn to Jonathan, who started off with Temple of Deceit, and then untaps on the second turn, plays the Thoughtseize. Before doing anything else, Joe laid down a lot of gas.
Yep. I witnessed it firsthand out there as the Courser. Courser Whip Connections, Caryatid, Thoughtseize, and I don't know what this other card is.
You probably just take the Thoughtseize.
I would think you would, but I don't know anything about anything.
Whip could be a problem, Connections could be a problem. But I think the 2 best cards in his hand are Thoughtseize and Connections. Takes the Connections.
Let's put this funny dog picture on the screen. So cute, man.
Joe decided not to cast his Thoughtseizes instead of the Caryatid. Seems fine.
Oh, that's really hard.
If Jonathan was willing to leave it, and must not have some spiciness in his hand at this point in time.
Hey, wonder if Jonathan has Dissolve. I called it!
I'll let you Thoughtseize this Dissolve.
Cast this Courser. Reveal Obsidizzle off the top.
Yeah, for you.
Then Joe realized that Jonathan's still debating his scry, and his flip flop got over as if Jonathan didn't say it. When Voice of Resurgence gets down to a reasonable price, I'll probably put him in a cube.
And if it ever gets down to reasonable price, I'm picking up 4 because I need it for birthing pod.
For Birthing Pud?
Although I do have a Bant pod list now that runs 4 Coiling Oracles.
Of course you do. Does it play Gideon as well?
That plays Enter the Planeswalker.
I like
Bounce
that.
your Coiling Oracles. Gideon's not actually bad in pot, because you can pot him away into a Sun Titan.
Yeah. I was talking about the bad Gideon, because that seems like a card you play. So there's Obsidat. The best card that Joe can have in this matchup, I would think.
Yeah, like, very fortunate that he dodged the Thoughtseize and then walked backwards into playing my carry tip before playing a Thoughtseize. So I can play my Obsidat on turn 4 while my opponent is tapped out.
So Jace is going to minus Revealing Aetherling versus Island and Mutavault. Probably take the lands here. That Aetherling isn't doing anything for a while.
No, you're not going to be able to race the Obsidat. Jonathan Wright has seen it a different way, though. I did discuss while you were away possible sideboarding plans, which does include Jonathan Wright cutting any number of Azorius Charms that were in his main deck. Because they're simply just not good in this matchup. However,
I'm sure he brings in the Archangels too.
Yeah. However, Azorius Charm, pretty good against Obsidat. Also, just the threat of Azorius Charm will probably keep Joe from attacking with his Obsidat.
I mean, he's so far ahead at this point that there's really no need to do that. I think to attack with the Obsidat, that is.
Right.
I think that line of play is a lot safer. Because the way in which Joe loses this game is that Obsidat dying somehow.
Yes.
So we're going to cycle the Jace, revealing Thoughtseize, Replacement Jace, and a Verdict.
Thoughtseize versus, maybe Jace versus, depends on what Joe has in his hand. I don't think anything gets better than his,
Joe, obviously, this is the worst, isn't it? Like,
yes.
The two cards that matter versus the card that Jonathan doesn't want.
I pulled my sideboard out and then, like, I didn't put it up.
Chad's gonna pull his sideboard out.
He must have won because he's very happy.
So Jonathan Wright going to write down the cards that he saw off his turn 2 Thoughtseize now. Whoops.
Like, he's thinking about this a long time. Like, why? Why?
Well, you gotta think, why is Joe splitting like that? So does he have a Desecration Demon in his hand?
But, like, Joe, if Joe never plays another spell this game, Jonathan loses in 6 turns.
Right.
Oh, I mean, maybe they're playing Magic on a level that I don't understand.
It also could just be a mind game here.
Like, I would just think that Joe's capable of making a mistake and just overvalued the removal. Needle versus 2 Scrylands. Just take the lands, right?
Yep.
So that Mana Confluence will continue to be able to tap and draw a card. That's a Twitch chat name of the night. It's a zombie. That's a good one. Alright, so Joe up to 21. Jonathan down to 10, more importantly, off of an Obsidat trigger. Joe getting 2 cards a turn with that Underworld Connections. Interesting of note, too, is how good Joe's hand must be, since he's on 4 lands, drawing 2 cards a turn. There's a classic Ka from Joe with the tossing the Thoughtseize out, revealing a hand that has 2 revs in it. A Verdict. Yeah, the only 2 cards we didn't know about were both Sphinx's Revelation.
Now, of course, this Obsidat's going to be able to get him for 5.
Because he knows the coast is clear. Do you go after Jonathan or do you go after Jace? You probably go after...
Probably just go after Jace.
Yeah, because the only way you lose is if Jonathan finds a very specific combination of cards.
Yeah, something like Dark Betrayal or...
And Jace will let him dig 3 deeper, so I like killing Jace here. I wonder if he brought in the Dark Betrayals, probably, right? What's that? Whip. Whip is going to make Jonathan's life very difficult. I don't think Jonathan can win from here.
Yep, there's Smith and Needles on the bottom of this library.
Yup. Joe just goes right after him.
So we said that this is the way that Joe can win the game, which is playing Underworld Connections and not let up. His deck is very, very slow, especially in these sideboarded games, but he's been able to put a lot of pressure on Jonathan, and even though Jonathan can now ref for 4, probably not going to be good enough. Plus,
Well, that keeps him from dying to the Obsidian attack by itself, but...
no, he still takes 4 from the Obsidian.
Yeah, I meant... He was at 5, so making the Obsidian a 4-5, but the trigger's still going to...
Well, yeah,
make it
ref
lethal.
for 3, I guess.
Let's whip out a Corsair. State-based effect, ignored. Rev for 3. Put him up to 6. Take
Yep, and he's just dead.
4, 5. Goes down to 1. He survives at 1 and he's got another Rev, so like he's not dead, but I mean he's not gonna win like this.
Well, he can rev next turn.
Like what sequence of cards could he draw?
He can ref for 2 and Dark Betrayal. Down to that.
But he's got whip.
He can Dark Betrayal during combat.
Yeah, but I mean, long term, he's going to need to find.
But he can just ref his whip, yeah.
Yeah, or that needle that's in the bottom of his deck. Is there any way of shuffling one's library in standard?
He has an Elixir of Immortality, which we know he does not.
He doesn't play that crap.
Yeah. So we're -2 to Jace. See Thoughtseize.